After being dropped off at his trailer following the questioning, Elvis turned around, walked back to the police car, and according to the police report, asked the state trooper if his spit is found on one of the girls, but he could explain it away. Would he still be in trouble? The state trooper that heard Elvis utter these words, Kevin Murphy, was not part of the Unified Command, but immediately relayed Elvis's disturbing question to Jay Harper of Unified Command. Elvis also admitted to a different sister that he had in fact spit on one of the girls. Elvis told Joyce, this sister, that he was on the trail and a bridge with two girls that were killed and that he was going away for a long time. Incidentally, Elvis's sister passed a polygraph examination when asked if she was telling the truth. Well, hello and welcome to the Tinfoil Hat Club. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Ben.
And thank you for joining us yet again. Well, I will throw the disclaimer out there early and now that this one is not going to be a cheery one today.
No.
Given the nature of the show that you guys can see or have seen, the Delphi murders, we are going to dive into this. We're not a murder mystery show. We don't dive into true crime. That's not what we're really doing this for. The reason that we are discussing this with everybody is because it ties into ritualistic human sacrifice and the nature of the events surrounding this whole thing are absolutely terrifying. And it's a scary example of the fact that this is occurring probably more often than we ever would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Still to this day. And for us, this literally happened right up the road from us. I mean, relatively speaking, in probably about an hour and a half from here, something like that, in the northern kind of part of Indiana. And this really revolves around the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. This occurred all the way back in February of 2017, February 13th of 2017, somewhere between 2 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. This made kind of national news at one point, but then afterwards kind of faded, I think, into the background. And the gentleman that they arrested for this and pinned it on, you and I both believe that he's a total patsy.
Yeah.
He did not do this.
I remember my wife getting ready for work, and I think we were off school that day or something. And so we were watching the news. And the first thing I said is, this is probably some sort of sacrifice with these girls.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
And I just had this feeling. I'm like, this is something's off here. And I didn't know, it was like, I didn't know the details or anything, but I was like, there's something going on here.
Yeah. So it's been I got to tell you, I'm kind of speechless because I literally just finished reading, and you guys can find this out there. I'm sure it's available via internet PDF. It's like 100 and almost 40 page court filing from his defense team on all of the nature of the surrounding crime scene, but all of the players involved, from the police, the investigators, and this ritualistic sacrifice that everybody basically just ignored.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they
still ignored during the trial and everything.
It's completely just gone ignored, which is terrifying to me, because it's like, how could you ignore this stuff? I mean, I don't understand how that's the case. So anyway, I don't want to get too far into it too quick. That is what we are going to be covering today. This one is going to be labeled as sensitive content because we are going to naturally be talking about some things that are not uber cheery and are kind of terrifying. And obviously details of the murder scenes and things like this of two young girls. And it is pretty brutal and pretty scary what all these guys decided to do. So, So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. If you guys are joining us via the live stream, you can put your comments down. We see all those comments funneling into us anytime you guys put those up. So feel free. You can drop those in there. And we'll try to get to some of those. If you're listening to this on Spotify or maybe Apple or whatever down the line, please do join us for our live streams. That would be awesome if you go to www.thetfhc.com/live stream. You can also click the watch live button when you go to our website, and you can see all the upcoming live streams that we have. You can actually hit the little bell icon, and it will mark those on your calendar. So you can do that. But just go to our website, thetfhc.com/live stream. And I think I've got a little text here so you guys can see. There's your address, and you can watch the show live. But yeah, we enjoy having you as well. So that is what we got going on. I'm kind of doing some work here on the side, loading in some stuff that I want to share with you guys on the screen. Sorry, it was kind of a rush day because I literally spent the entire morning or afternoon, I guess I should say, after I got home from church, poring over this 130-page court document and just I think I texted you guys after I got maybe 10, 12 pages in, and I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And we've been discussing this in our house over a year.
Yeah. This obviously has been ongoing now for quite a while.
And when they arrested him back in 22, I didn't think it was the guy. I just had a feeling that's not the guy.
Yeah. I mean, just there's so much about this that's just crazy to me.
I know.
That it's like I don't know how when you look at what the defense has in this document, and we're gonna cover it today as best we can in the hour and a half that we have. We're gonna hit some high points because I made some notes. When you look at this in here, it's just like you feel so sorry for this guy.
Yeah,
because
especially
like
what they did to him.
This dude, it just got completely like Oswald railroaded.
Yeah,
I mean, he is a complete path. They have ruined this guy's life, and now he's been convicted of murder. The jury convicted him of murder, which is just shocking to me how anybody could hear this evidence and not think this dude is innocent. But I think a lot of things were kept out of the court system because a lot of the things were kept from the judge.
She read that document. And she wouldn't allow it.
Insane to me. I'm going to use that term probably 50 times today because I look at all this and I'm like, I don't know how somebody could just turn a blind eye to this, because it's not like these guys are making this up. I mean, they have evidence of this stuff.
Yeah.
The defense has evidence of the things that they have, everything in here, right? Like this is not, they're not just making this up.
And I don't want to get into that, so
go ahead.
I was going to say, and his DNA wasn't even there at the crime scene.
No, there is no DNA that links him with no forensic evidence whatsoever that links him to the crime.
Yeah.
There is no DNA, no forensic evidence whatsoever, including electronic. There is no electronic data that connects him to this crime whatsoever.
Yeah.
And again, this all revolves around effectively paganistic human sacrifice, which again, we're going to get into. And there is no evidence whatsoever that he is involved or has ever been involved in any of these.
The only thing was that the state had was that unspent round that they said was ejected from his gun with the ejector marks. And I don't believe in I don't believe in that kind of, I'll say voodoo magic.
You mean the magic bullet that laid on the cot magically in pristine condition at Parkland Hospital kind of thing?
Yes. I don't believe in that kind of voodoo stuff because I've shot a lot and it's going to make a scratch no matter what.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And God did not make those ejectors, so they're not individually made.
I know, right? You were not uniquely and wonderfully made.
No.
In Sig we trust.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, man. This stuff is absolutely kind of crazy. So that is that's the ride we're going to be on today. And again, I'm trying to load some graphics in here, and it doesn't look like it's going to let me load this one because it's a little bit off of normal.
Just like we are.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so we'll try it later, but yeah, we'll start off by just saying that again, some of you guys might remember these. These events, Dean says he's guilty, as you know, whatever. Dean, maybe you'll feel differently after today. I don't know how much you've dug into it or not, but we'll see. But yeah, this all happened in 2017. The famous part of this was the FBI was involved for a little bit at the first part, and they had video and audio of this guy that they released because they played things very close to the vest from a very early point, and were very careful about releasing information. And they released audio of this guy saying, get down the hill. And that was the one that they had released kind of out there to everybody. But then later, I think they had a little bit of video they released too of this guy walking on the trail. And he's got like a blue windbreaker looking jacket on, looks like maybe a hoodie out the back. And he had on one of the cabbie style hats. And there were sketches that were released, which we're going to get into because the sketches they were released were not accurate.
No.
And the one that was more accurate, they deliberately held for like over a year, I think.
Yeah.
And the lady that gave him the sketch finally went to the investigators and was like, why have you not released my sketch? The one you have out there is completely wrong. And so I think she kind of pressured him into doing it, which is interesting. So yeah, there's so much in here, but this all revolves around a pagan Norse religion called Odinism.
Yep.
Okay. And in this particular area, seems like in this area, which is sad to say, but this kind of spreads out for about 100 and some miles of this cult, it seems like. And there seems like there's an awful lot of people that are members of this cult based on everything that I was reading. But it all revolves around this cult called Odinism. Now, on top of that, there are ties into white supremacy as well.
Yeah.
So you get into these branches of white supremacy, which we'll cover that as we kind of go through here as well. And, it's just nuts. So they have this murder that occurs, the police, and then they start to get into the investigation of the murder. And the murder scene was literally all staged.
Yeah.
With the one girl's blood was practically completely drained out. The other girl, both girls were positioned, specifically positioned with their arms and legs certain ways, forming symbols. And then sticks were grabbed and laid over them, forming symbols. The one girl actually even had antlers, like tree branch, to make her look like she had antlers placed on her head. I think both girls' throats were cut. And then the one girl's clothes, the one girl they drained the blood out of, was naked. And then the other girl had on both sets of clothes.
Yeah.
And again, all of and they both had these sticks and everything. And then the blood from Liberty German, the one whose blood was drained, they used to paint symbols on the tree where they were found underneath.
Yeah.
And they are trying to claim that this one individual did all this in like an hour and a half, not even an hour and a half, like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of incredible because when you look at it, it's just like, there's just no way. But early on, obviously the police saw this crime scene, right? And they take photos and they do all these things and they start to zero in on the cult aspect of things. So they go to Purdue University, allegedly, and they start talking to this professor or whoever. And the professor looks at it and says, nope, not Odinism, not any kind of cult worship. You can just give that up. And from that point on, it was just like, okay, well, that's over with. That's done. And they never revisited it.
Wonder if he's part of it. That was my question.
Well, the other thing, too, that when you go in and you read this document, the defense team was never able to find out who this person is.
Yeah.
And then the police are like, we don't know who it was. Yeah. We don't remember. We don't have record of who it was that we talked to. They can't find this professor, couldn't locate this professor. So there's red flag number one, that something is extremely strange. Okay. And the symbols that were painted, Kim Young says he was railroaded, vet convicted on Veterans Day. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
The symbols were all Norse symbols. And there was one that resembled what looks like effectively an F.
Yeah.
That repeats over and over again. So the FBI, when they were involved, so their Behavioral Analysis Unit, or BAU, actually determined that the individuals responsible for the homicides were involved in Nordic beliefs. And I'm going to be reading some of this straight from this report. This was news to the defense, as no member of the Unified Command or the task force that was put together, not involving the FBI, but the local police and state police, this task force. So if you hear Unified Command, that's what we're talking about. In charge of the investigation, revealed this information to the defense during recent depositions. And you're going to see this repeated over and over again, that they have withheld evidence from the courts. They have withheld evidence from the judge. They have withheld evidence from the defense team. They have lied and fabricated evidence. The police have, under oath, to make their ridiculous theory to paint this guy as guilty fit when the eyewitnesses and all of the information doesn't fit at all. Mary Bergner says he's involved, but so are others. Very well could be. Very well could be. I think you said that at one point too. Maybe he was involved, but he was just kind of the fall guy out of the group. So I got to tell you, after reading this, and granted, I want to make it clear that when you read this, you have to read it through the lens of these particular individuals are defending this individual. So they're not going to say that, he's guilty. Yeah. That's the whole point. But the evidence in here is pretty ridiculous. But there has been no evidence presented by anyone that Richard Allen, who is the gentleman that they have found guilty of doing this, wasn't ever involved with any kind of pagan practices or cult practices of any kind.
And there's no trace. I mean, he was there. He said he was there that day, but that's about it.
Yeah. And he admits that he was there that day. Yeah. And people saw him there that day.
Yeah.
And his car was in the parking lot there that day. He never denied that. Matter of fact, when they brought him in to interview him, he thought that he was actually being brought in to help with the investigation because he was there.
Yeah.
That's what his original, he went in voluntarily, didn't try to hide, none of it.
I know somebody else that was there that same day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Somebody I know?
I don't know. She's been to our church a couple times.
Well, that's kind of terrifying. So, but they literally went into this guy's house, Richard Allen, and they pulled all of his computer equipment. They literally pulled 10 hard drives, several flash drives, all of this stuff. Nothing.
Yeah.
None of it. Right. And then here is one of the things that we're going to talk about more probably as we get into things a little later. And I do have some things I'll throw up on the screen for this, is where he was put in jail at the correctional facility, at Westville Correctional Facility, where he was being held. Okay. So this is the Indiana Department of Corrections at Westville Correctional Facility, excuse me. 2 of the guards, at least that they know of that are working there, are confirmed Odinists.
Yeah.
They literally had patches on their uniform. So when his defense team went into the jail or the prison or whatever that he's being held in, they noticed that these guys, that he was being really cagey. He didn't want to talk, and that these guys were always around.
And they were always present when he was, and that's not usual.
And it went even more than that, because they started videotaping.
Yeah.
They started videotaping his talks with his attorneys, and both of his attorneys said in the 50 plus years that they have been practicing law between them, they have never had that happen. It finally stopped after they basically legally took action to get it to quit.
It's client.
And they would deliberately make Alan sit where he would have to face towards them, so that even if they couldn't hear, they could still see his mouth and read his lips of what he was saying.
I don't want to give too much away.
Give it all. We're going to get into it.
Because my wife works in the justice system.
Oh, that part. Okay.
And most of the stuff that was being done is illegal.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to, no guards are allowed to be present with anybody there. And they're not allowed to videotape with their client. I'm going
to put this up right now. These guys, this is no joke. These are sworn affidavits from his defense attorneys, their own sworn affidavits that they saw this, and they started confiscating their cell phones and stuff. When they went in, like they were like, "Nah, you're not taking your phone in with you," and they started taking away their phones and stuff. So they had no way to record or take photos of any of this. But these guys at the correctional facility literally were wearing these patches. So you can see here, in Odin we trust, and the 3 triangles that you got right here are literally a symbol of Odinism on the downside of this half-cut flag right here, right? And then also had this badge on here, which looks like the Patagonia, logo repurposed, and it says, "I hate people." Yeah. So both these guys were wearing these, and then once things started to leak out that the defense team was zeroing in on kind of the Odinism aspect of things, magically these guys' patches went away from their uniforms when they started going in.
Yep.
So again, these guys have testified to this, right? So this is legit that they started having this when they went into the prison. So yeah, this just gets crazier and crazier the further you get in here. So they said in here, inside of the cold concrete walls of the maximum security unit of this dilapidated reformatory, that Richard Allen is being threatened, intimidated, and mentally abused. And he said several times, like when he finally felt like he could say something to them, his defense team would go visit him, and he'd be like, "Is my wife still alive? Are my kids still alive? Is everybody still alive? If I talk, they're going to kill me." And his defense team's like, "Who are you talking about?" And he goes, "The guys with the Odin patches."
Yeah.
So at some point, these dudes literally got in here and started.
When we were reading this last fall, when it came out, I got sick to my stomach because it goes beyond. It goes beyond just physical. This is spiritual.
Yes.
This is the visual spiritual warfare right here.
And this is why we're covering this today.
And a lot of people that's out there don't understand that. Yeah. I mean, they just, this guy, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's guilty. He's innocent. He was part of. No, it's a spiritual war that is happening, and we are seeing the effects of it.
Yeah.
And nobody, I would say probably 90% of the people in the church can't even grasp that.
We got a couple comments here. Kim Young says it was Abby's blood that was drained. So forgive me if I got that wrong. I said Liberty, I think. So if it was Abby, I apologize. And then Lindsay says, you guys do also know that Ferenczi was killed by a CO, right? I'm not sure what that is. So you'll have to, elaborate on that one for us, Lindsay. So, but yeah, we'll kind of keep continuing on. So yeah, this all revolves around this pagan, Viking Nordic culture called Odinites. And I'm going to read this from the report. I'm going to do a lot of reading from the report today. Evidence supports that the crime scene, these murdering Odinites left behind obvious signature symbols in the forms of runes. These runes were 1, formed with sticks, 2, fashioned with tree branches, and 3, painted using the blood of Liberty German. So I think it was actually Liberty's blood that was drained. Perhaps we'll figure that out here in a minute. Sticks and tree branches were deliberately, carefully, and proficiently placed on each girl in a certain arrangement, mimicking certain runes, as was their body and their limbs and stuff. At least one of the branches appeared to have had its end cut off cleanly by some type of tool like an electric saw, providing proof of a preconceived plan. Additionally, the blood of Liberty German was used as the paint to mark the tree with a rune that looks similar to the F. With a simple Google search, these runes would be identifiable as the one of the many calling cards of this pagan religious cult. Yet law enforcement in charge of the Delphi investigation seemingly and quickly abandoned the obvious correlation between the crime scene and Odinism, despite obscene amounts, man, and I am not kidding you, obscene amounts of evidence linking Odinism to the crime scene, and even in spite of powerful evidence linking specific Odinites in and around Indiana to the murders, which we're going to get into.
Yeah.
Also, the court will learn in this affidavit for search warrant that Sheriff Liggett, now I want you to remember that because this individual is going to come up many, many times, failed to inform Judge Diner that nothing, absolutely nothing, links Richard Allen to Odinism or any religious cult. Again, this is a continuing theme that will continually pop up more and more, that this sheriff wanted a certain picture painted. He did everything in his power, including lie and twist testimony of others to make that fit.
I'm going to interject something.
No, go ahead.
We went up there a couple summers ago and we walked the trail, went to the town. I just got a creepy feeling about the town.
Yeah, you said that to me before.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the town knew about it and knew who was in on it, and they were being quiet. There, I said that.
No, there you go.
And our
So, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, so Lindsay came back on her, she clarified her comment. She said Greg Ferenczi, the FBI collaborating agent, was murdered by a corrections officer. Wow. He was the one who was investigating the Odinist involvement in the murders with 2 others. Yeah, I think there's some reference maybe to him in here. We'll see. But we're going to keep rolling here. So this goes on. Law enforcement's failure to actively pursue the obvious links between the crime scene and Odinism is confounding. Well, that's no joke. It's even more confounding when days and weeks after the murders, a particular Odinite from Logansport named Brad Holder, and I want you to remember that too, because that is going to be a prominent person going forward, posted on social media images mimicking the very ruins found at the crime scene. A crime scene unreleased and unknown to the general public even to this day. They have been very tight-lipped up until very recently on the crime scene, even in description or anything. So for anybody to post this knows they have to have intimate knowledge of some kind.
Yeah.
Who was Brad Holder? He was an Odinite, confirmed on Facebook. We know this, as with the 2 correctional officers. We know this too. They went on their Facebook and they found a whole bunch of Odin stuff that they were, praise Odin and this and that. So it's not like this is conjecture. So Brad Holder was an Odinite whose son, Logan, had been dating Abby.
Yeah.
Brad Holder's social media posts seemingly taunted the very police that refused to fully investigate him. The defense believes the court will be shocked at the number of clues or Easter eggs, quote unquote, both before and after the murders that Holder openly posted on his Facebook page that pointed the finger to his involvement in the murders.
Yeah.
And one of these would be including a painting that he did, which I was going to try to throw up here, but I can't think the formatting of it's just not good enough to get on the screen. A painting that he did supposedly of Odin hanging upside down naked from a tree with his leg positioned similar to the girls, his throat cut, and his blood used, I think, to draw symbols on the tree.
Yeah.
If memory serves. So, yeah. The failure of the unified command, so again, the police force that was in charge of investigating all this, to vigorously pursue the obvious links between the crime scene and Odinism is even more perplexing when the evidence known to law enforcement demonstrated a clear nexus between Brad Holder and at least 4 other suspects, which will be prominently focused on for the rest of our show today, too. Elvis Fields from Rushville, Patrick Westfall from Delphi, so right here in the same area, Johnny Messer from Rushville, and Rod Abrams from Rushville, who's now living in Connorsville. This is the more you read this, the more you're just like, how did these get? What was going on here? Unified Command was aware that Elvis Fields, so one of the ones we just mentioned, confessed to his sister that he was involved in the murders, even providing to his sister intimate crime scene details of which only those present at the crime scene would have familiarity. Additionally, Elvis Fields told his sister, Mary, on February 14, 2017, so this is like a day after, that he was present at the killings and that he now had a, quote, brother and was now part of a gang. In February 2018, so 1 year later, Elvis had been questioned by law enforcement but denied involvement in the murders. However, after being dropped off at his trailer, following the questioning, Elvis turned around, walked back to the police car, and according to the police report, asked the state trooper if his spit is found on one of the girls, but he could explain it away. Would he still be in trouble? The state trooper that heard Elvis utter these words, Kevin Murphy, was not part of the unified command, but immediately relayed Elvis's disturbing question to Jay Harper of unified command. Elvis also admitted to a different sister that he had in fact spit on one of the girls. Elvis told Joyce, the sister, that he was on the trail and a bridge with 2 girls that were killed and that he was going away for a long time. Incidentally, Elvis's sister, one of them, passed a polygraph examination when asked if she was telling the truth about to her. Now, here's the other kicker. This guy that we just read about up here, Brad Holder, and the other guy, Patrick Westfall, both live in Delphi, okay?
Yeah.
Are bosom buddies, all right? And they are the ones that are really the driving force behind all of this. And they were known to collect mentally kind of handicapped or slow individuals and kind of use them, as pawns in the greater game. And this particular gentleman that just confessed, Elvis, what was his name? Elvis Fields, was when one of the officers went and talked to him, this particular officer, I think, and questioned him. He said he had the mental capacity of about an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
So he was kind of a slower guy.
I've brought this book up before, folks. I'm reading it, and it's about occult witchcraft. It's based on a true story. And one of the names that they call the occult, you know what it is? The Brotherhood.
What now?
The Brotherhood is what the occult is called. And you said that
the brother, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what all the cults.
I know.
Brotherhood.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like...
Incidentally, this particular individual who we've been talking about and will continue to be focused on, featured in here, Brad Holder, is also a Freemason. Be interesting to know how many other of these guys are Freemasons as well. The Brotherhood of Freemasonry.
You know what? It's kind of, probably all ties together. I'm dancing lightly.
It's okay. It's okay. So this kind of goes on to talk about, we kind of need to paint the picture of how this all ties together with these guys. So we just mentioned kind of 4 additional other gentlemen, right? One of the names was Johnny Messer. This guy's from Rushville. He was a recruiter for the Odinites, was also the connective tissue between the Odinites from Delphi area, so Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall, and then the suspects from the Rushville area, so Elvis Fields, Rod Abrams. Okay, so we've got, all total 5 guys in here, right, that we're talking about. So this guy's the recruiter.
Yeah.
Okay. Delphi is located 126 miles from Rushville. Law enforcement knew that Johnny Messer was friends with Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall. Law enforcement also knew that Messer was acquaintances with Elvis Fields and Rod Abrams. I'm going to take 1 second here. Excuse me. Unified Command theoretically could claim and actually appear to be claiming that this part of the connection is simply a bizarre coincidence. However, Unified Command not only knew that Elvis Fields and Rod Abrams and Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall shared a common acquaintance in Johnny Messer, but also that Elvis Fields and Brad Holder followed each other on Facebook and even mimicked each other's Facebook pages, with Elvis Fields actually recreating the photos that Holder posted on his Facebook page. Mm-hmm. So here you got this guy kind of mentally handicapped, a little bit slower. He's kind of found this guy that he looks up to, getting into this brotherhood, right? And he's mimicking this. So again, the continuous denial by law enforcement to forget this avenue even exists, even though that we now know these guys are involved in the same exact stuff and are posting on social media, because then we have all these people that find out about this case, and you've got internet sleuths out there, and they start digging into things, and they start digging into this stuff and start sending the police all of the crap from these guys' Facebook pages saying, look at these guys, man. They probably involved in this. I mean, they're into some dark stuff. So again, Johnny Messer, right? Johnny Messer's ex-girlfriend, Taylor Hornaday, told police that Johnny Messer and Patrick Westfall were like brothers. So Westfall lives in Delphi. Messer's the recruiter. He lives down in Rushville. She also told police that she had allowed Johnny to borrow her car on or around Valentine's Day 2017, right when the murders took place, and that Johnny drove her car, quote, up there to hang with his Vinlander friends. Now, Vinlander, let's dive into that really quick. This is actually a branch of white supremacy, I do believe. I had it pulled up earlier, but I accidentally closed it. Yes, Vinlander's Social Club was formed in 2003 by a handful of former members and associates of a rogue racist skinhead group, the Outlaw Hammerskins. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about that. Okay. So there's your first mention of that cheery goodness. Oh no, I'm freezing up here.
You're just working too hard.
I guess, man. It's like, doesn't want me to read this.
Or Odin is stopping us.
Yeah.
This is God's show, not Odin's show.
Odin has interjected and said, "No mas, thou shalt not read." Oh, I am totally frozen. Okay, this is a super party here.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we're back. So my face is probably really red because that was freaking me out a little bit. Okay, so yeah, we have this connections, right? But it gets better. Listen to this. When he returned with her vehicle, so he goes up here and wants to hang out with his buddy, right? His brother, his friends. When he returned her vehicle, it had dried blood over one side of it.
Yeah.
Johnny Messer refused to discuss the details of how the blood got there. Messer's ex-girlfriend further stated that it took her several car washes to finally remove the blood. Meanwhile, Messer has claimed that he had never, not once in his life, been to Delphi, home of his brother, Patrick Westfall, and near the home of his Odinite brother, Brad Holder.
Yeah.
So he's lying, right? Messer's ex-girlfriend also told law enforcement that Brad Holder and Johnny Messer were two of the most violent people she ever knew and were fully capable of having been involved in the murders. Johnny Messer's ex-girlfriend further stated that a motive for their involvement in the murder of Abby and Libby might be the concept of, quote, blood in and blood out, which means social acceptance into their secret circles. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I've said, all the old gods are returning, and it's just evident. And people are blind to it.
Sacrifice people, man.
People are blind to it, and they think, "Oh, this is ridiculous."
This is all make believe.
Yes, this is happening. Probably,
there will probably be someone, no doubt about it in my mind. Someone, maybe in this country or even outside of this country, in the time that we talk today, will be ritualistically sacrificed.
Yes,
no doubt about it.
Think about the abortions.
Well, that too. Yeah, this is on top of those.
Yes.
Right. So, wow. Yeah. All this information was relayed to Liggett. There we go. Sheriff Liggett, who keeps just ignoring all this, and the Unified Command team. Yet, Unified Command provided no guidance as to what to do to capitalize on this information in order to work towards solving the murders. In addition, Unified Command learned that Johnny Messer's ex-girlfriend had been listening to and recording Johnny Messer's phone calls. So, again, this is the recruiter guy. All right. Police secured the phone and listened to the 3 phone calls involving Johnny Messer. And 2 of those phone calls, Messer was, quote, offering money to other people to find someone so they can be injured or killed.
Yeah.
The 3rd call involves Messer, quote, bragging about holding a subject hostage and shooting them at his house.
Ritualistic sacrifices.
Yeah. So these 2 bone monkeys at the correctional facility are Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones. So they've been promoted to sergeants. Yeah. These Westville correctional officers boldly wore patches on their Department of Corrections uniforms that proclaimed "In Odin We Trust," which we put the thing up a little bit earlier. So here you go. So I know Lindsay mentioned wait till you get to Holman. I know, but we may kind of touch upon that a little bit. He does come up here in a bit, I think. So, and again, we're going to get to as much as we can today, guys, because this is a crazy story that's been going on for this is 7 years now.
This is a show we've been wanting to do for a while, but we just haven't.
Yeah, this is nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we get into like the kind of the crime scene aspect of things, right? And when we look at all this, all right, I want to just make sure everybody understands this. We are trying to say that this one individual, okay, was responsible, 5'4" man, okay, was responsible for snatching these 2 girls, supposedly at gunpoint, from the bridge. We have the down the hill, audio that was released and all these things.
I've walked across that bridge. That is scary because it's like 3 feet between each tie, and it's nothing.
Really?
Yes, and I went to one, and I'm like, forget it.
Yeah, geesh.
And to walk across that, it's an adventure, and
spooky noodles.
Yes, it is. It's a scary bridge.
Yeesh. No thanks. It's especially scary now. So,
Yeah.
incidentally, an eyewitness that had the second, which I think I do have as well that I can put up. I think I might have already loaded it in here. There were 2 eyewitness accounts, okay, and sketches that were done. Whoops. And the second account was the one that did not get released
for a long time.
Like 460 some days.
Yeah.
They released the first one, which they knew based on all the descriptions of everything and eyewitness accounts and all the evidence that they had gathered at that particular point. They were fairly confident that there was no way that these guys, or the guy that they had, were responsible.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And again, let me see if I can get these on a different way. But yeah, so we release the first sketch. We get everybody looking in this direction, which is incorrect, by the way. And then we switch and we get everybody looking in another direction.
Yeah.
Which was probably the right direction, but by then it's 400 and some days later. So like everything had way cooled off by this particular point, right? And everybody's kind of like drifted away and lost interest in the case in some ways. But here's what Richard Allen would have had to have done by himself with these 2 girls. He would have been solely responsible for marching both these 2 down a steep hill. He would have had to march both girls through the woods for some distance. At some point in time, this single solitary man would have had to have crossed a cold river whose depth was nearly 3.5 feet. At this depth, if the water were only 2 feet higher, he would have been completely submerged. Okay, so he's 3.5 feet in the water. With the cold river water rising well above his waist, this man acting alone has to worry about himself crossing the rushing river and also trying to corral 2 girls, keeping them from running or screaming, knowing that houses were not far away. This man on his own would have had to have then marched the girls to the side of the murders, while all 3, because of the depth of the water, were wearing undergarments, pants, shirts, jackets, socks, and shoes that were drenched with water from the river crossing. Once he and the girls arrived at the murder scene, this single solitary person then somehow would have had to subdue either Abby or Libby in rope or some other restraining device in order to have the ability to kill the unsubdued child without fear that the other child would run away or scream. Because of the lack of blood on the girl's clothing, each child would have to have had been completely disrobed before the single solitary man sliced his first victim's neck. So the man acting alone either asked each child to disrobe or he assisted in the disrobing. Trooper Jerry Holman, there you go, of the Unified Command has confirmed that both girls were naked at one point in time, as Liberty was found at the crime scene completely naked, while evidence showed that Abby at one point in time had her clothes off. Once the girls were disrobed and naked in the middle of the forest in the middle of the day in February, and once he had subdued one of the 2 girls to prevent her from running away, the man acting alone could finally kill the girls. This man acting alone, would have had to pull the ceremonial knife or whatever sharp instrument was used and inflict fatal injuries to the neck of the first child. It is unknown which child actually perished first, while the second child watched, hopefully without screaming or becoming so hysterical that said child was uncontrollable. The man acting alone would then have to walk over to the second child, who was somehow subdued, and inflict fatal injuries to her neck. And this is where it gets really sad. The autopsy notes the man acting alone would then have to walk over the second child, who was somehow subdued, and inflict the same fatal injuries to her neck. The autopsy notes taken by Liggett reveal that the pathologist stated that because of the particular vein that was severed, Abby suffered a slow death.
Yeah.
And this just goes on and on. He would have had to have staged the crime scene, would have had to have drained all the blood and waited for the blood to drain out.
Yeah.
And I don't know about anybody else, but you all pretty much know that when you want to drain the blood out of anything, you typically
hang it up,
hoist it up.
Kind of like Odin.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So then you're going to have some kind of collective device to collect it, because there wasn't this huge amount of blood.
Yeah.
So none of this makes any sense, man. None of it.
So how do you feel?
Yeah, so this just goes on and on, man. And then Sheriff Liggett, he's just adamant that it has to be Richard Allen. It has to be Richard Allen. This one person alone, right? And there's it's shocking to me how Why?
Incompetent they are? Or
Is it that though?
Or are they in on it?
Yeah, it's so out there that it has to probably be collusion of some kind.
Anybody with two brain cells banging together can like realize, oh, wait a second, there's more to this than what we're being told. There's more people involved that we know.
It has to be. And when you start to understand this cult, right? I'm like, this has to have far reaching, there has to be a lot more people involved in this cult than what we're just reading here.
When I started reading this book and thinking about all of this, because the trial was like Monday when they finally reached the verdict, and my dad had some stuff done, and I was leaving where he was at, and it was just like God just spoke to me, and he was like, Ben, as many churches there are in America, there's probably as many cults.
Oh yeah, I would agree.
And so you figure,
and they're more united than we are.
Yes, and I figured there's like 40 some thousand churches in America,
and closing more and more by the day.
And so
probably got more and more cults opening up by the day.
Yeah, and it's easier to, hey, look what I can do for you.
Yeah, well, there's a tremendous amount of power that comes from this too, right? Like every serial killer and murderer, like they do it because they get this huge rush of power.
Yeah,
I mean, you're involving yourself in this. That's was adrenochrome part of this?
Yeah.
Were we doing this to, create this to like have the one girl watch the other get murdered? And I'm like, this is crazy stuff.
And why
But that's why it's just shocking to me that any law enforcement officer that's worth their weight in salt could just dismiss this stuff and dismiss this so obvious, like in your face.
Yeah.
If I was a judge and read this, I'd be like, holy cow. Like if you guys are defense attorneys and you're making all this up, which you're not, because this is evidence, right?
Yeah.
This is like this is evidence of the case.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we know this. We got their Facebook records.
Yeah.
We can connect the dots between these people. These interviews happened. These admissions happened. The polygraphs happened.
Yeah.
So this isn't make-believe, right? So if you read this as the judge, you got to be like, what on earth were you guys doing in this investigation? This dude should not be in jail.
Yep.
I'm like, it's just terrible. So I'm gonna read this about Sheriff Liggett. On August 8th, 2023, deposition, Sheriff Liggett was adamant that one person and only one person alone, Richard Allen, was involved in the murder of Abby and Libby. However, off record, Liggett doesn't believe that one man was capable of pulling off all of these feats, especially in such a short period of time, leaving behind a crime scene with no forensic evidence, as referenced to earlier. Liggett says only one thing publicly under oath, but a different thing off record to his buddies. One of those buddies is former sheriff and now chief deputy sheriff Toby Lazenby.
Yeah.
The day after Liggett's August 8th, 2023 deposition, Toby Lazenby was subject to a deposition himself. When he was asked at the deposition how many people he believed were involved in the murder of Abby and Libby, Lazenby provided a different answer than Liggett. He indicated that at least 2 people were involved. The reason Lazenby gives as to his belief is at least 2 people were involved in the murders was he didn't believe that anybody would be able to do it by themselves.
Yeah.
Quote, it would be difficult for one individual to accomplish what occurred. When asked if any other law enforcement officers shared this perspective, Lazenby provided a surprising answer based on what Liggett had testified to under oath the day before. Yes, he said, at least one other law enforcement officer believed that multiple people were involved in the murder of Abby and Libby. Tony Liggett.
Yeah.
According to Lazenby's sworn testament, it was common for he, Lazenby, and Tony Liggett to have one-on-one conversations, and that Tony Liggett definitely believed that more than one person was involved.
Yeah.
And this is where we get to why we're covering this on the Tinfoil Hat Club. When I got here, I was like, there we go. And even mentioned in here. In addition to the white supremacy component that exists with Odinism, there seems to be an additional dark, demonic component to Odinism, at least if articles concerning Odinism, human sacrifice, and imagery found on the internet, coupled with the imagery and language found on Brad Holder's Facebook page, are to be considered. As an example, the defense has attached exhibits 30 through 34, which I can't provide because I don't have them. And I'm not part of the court. Okay. And even more exhibits are different versions of the same image that Brad Holder posted on his Facebook page. And as you can see, law enforcement wrote the words "painting by Brad Holder," which I explained earlier was a picture that he had painted, bragging like a year, I think, almost to the day after these murders, where he's like, "Oh, I picked back up painting again in acrylic." And it's this picture of Odin, or a guy hanging upside down naked. Yeah. His one, tied by his one leg, so his other leg's down at like a 45.
And it would make sense that it
throat's cut,
and that it is dark because one of them was posed like Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, with the fists up by her face.
Yeah.
Additionally, Kevin Murphy, who was a state trooper that investigated the Odinist angle, said about Odinism, quote, "It seemed to me to border on almost satanic type of worshiping, sacrifice, but I couldn't really wrap my brain around it."
Yeah. Part of me thinks that a lot of these guys, if, he couldn't wrap his brain around it, the church, another failure of the church, don't teach spiritual warfare. They don't teach this is what things happen. This is real. This happens, And whether he goes to church or not, I don't know. But that's the failure of the church.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
yeah. We're in the dark.
Yeah, we are.
We got a bunch of virgins with no oil.
Yes, we do.
I've been saying that a lot lately.
We do.
Go read up Christ's parable on that one, folks, because that's where a lot of folks are. So again. Here you go. I mean, this just keeps getting worse and worse the more you get in here. So we go further. Exhibit 37 that they submitted in here, and they explain what it is a document memorializing the only known interview of Brad Holder concerning the Delphi murders. The only time they talked to him, at least through August 30th of 2023. In that document, and it's sad that the defense has to put this because they're not being given information.
Yeah.
They literally had to go. They went and found information and then submitted it to the police.
Yeah.
And the police went, "Yeah, we already have that." And then they were like, "Well, why didn't you give it to us?"
Yeah.
So this is the known interview of him, right? It is learned Brad Holder details that he was usually in Delphi every weekend visiting his friend, guess who? Patrick Westfall, and attending Asatru religious ceremonies. So we've arrived at another cult deal here. At Patrick Westfall's house, usually on Sundays, Asatru is interchangeable with Odinism. Patrick Westfall and Brad Holder had been friends prior to the murders of Abby and Libby. In fact, Patrick Westfall and Brad Holder were found in a photograph together as late as January 21st, 2017. So now we're talking, 3 weeks before the murder, somewhere in that time frame?
Yeah.
Find attached copy of said photograph, marked exhibit, blah, 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 blah. Murphy noted on page 11 of the Odin report that Westfall appears, because this guy put together this after investigating the whole Odinism aspect, he put together this report called the Odin report.
Yeah.
That Westfall appears 10 times in the pictures that Holder posts on Facebook prior to February 13th, 2017. However, after February 13th, 2017, Westfall does not appear in any of Holder's posed photos.
Yeah.
So what happened to their friendship? And here is the excerpt that can be found on page 9 of the Odin report. And this was from his girlfriend, if we remember, Amber. Said that Brad spoke with Patrick one time when he was intoxicated and said that he and Patrick got into a fight and they no longer speak to each other. He told her that he and Westfall were in the woods near a river conducting a ritual. One of them said or did something that the other did not agree with, and they no longer talked to each other. She said the river was near Patrick's house. Note, Brad has a Facebook post with him and Patrick together on January 21st, 2017. Patrick's house, just incidentally, he was living at the time, was 3.1 miles away, or roughly a 7-minute drive to the cemetery, which is the closest entry point to where the girls were murdered.
Yeah.
So this goes on. Brad became very nervous and told her that she needed to, quote, stay away from Westfall or she would end up dead.
Mm-hmm.
She said that Brad told her Westfall and, quote, his crew was responsible for the murders of the girls in Delphi and that a fire killed and a fire that killed 2 girls, excuse me. I asked her if she knew if the fires in Florida that killed 4 girls, and she said, or knew of the fires in Florida that killed 4 girls, and she said she was not familiar with any fires that killed any children until Brad mentioned it today. Yeah. She said Brad may have been talking about that fire, but had the number of killed wrong. She said that Brad told her that Westfall and, quote, his crew had friends in several states and that they have no problem killing race traitors. I asked her to clarify race traitor, and she said she believed it meant white people who mix with other races, which makes sense with the white supremacy aspect, right? Amber said that Brad told her that Westfall belonged to a group called the Vinlanders. There's another one, and guess what that is? We read about it earlier. That's the white supremacy aspect, right? And another group that's, quote, 22. Brad told her that...
A Taylor Swift fan group?
Isn't that ironic? Right. Probably. Brad told her that Westfall had many people backing him up and, quote, powerful friends. She said that Brad was very nervous while telling her these things and was whispering like he was fearful someone else would hear him. She said that throughout the conversation, Brad was constantly telling her to stay away from Westfall. He also told her that Patrick had killed a lot of people and it didn't matter if they were innocent or not. Amber truly believes Brad is scared of Westfall.
Yeah.
Incidentally, supposedly Westfall, they're both former military, has PTSD, according to what everybody is claiming. Prior to Amber leaving, she said that Brad told her to, quote, stay off Westfall's radar, and I can only protect you so much if you keep asking questions. He also told her that if Westfall found out she was married to him, that she would be in danger. Brad also questioned her on why Westfall would be going on a date, that he was under the impression that Westfall was married or engaged to someone. That's weird. So, yeah. Now, we've also got Brad Holder that is drawing Odinistic F, the same symbols on his hands and stuff. So we've got all kinds of stuff on his Facebook pages. So, yeah. So, again, this guy, too, turned this report in. And it was like, hey, thanks for doing all that research. Yeah, it's nothing there. Yeah. They cleared this guy literally not even 30 days after the murder.
Yeah.
So this guy, Holder, who is his son, was in some kind of relationship with Abby Williams. And we just, and has all of this Odinistic and white supremacy crap that you can dig into the least little bit and find out that he's into this stuff, and literally gets dismissed as a suspect 30 days.
Yeah.
Not even 30 days.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. Tell me that doesn't smell.
I know that the whole thing just makes you wonder how high it goes up.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It does make you wonder. It's kind of like the movie Sin City. Have you ever seen the movie Sin City?
No.
Okay. He keeps climbing the food chain to try to figure out who's at the top, right? So, yeah, this is crazy stuff. So this keeps going on. So we have another investigation here. So we're looking into, I think, Brad Holder's Facebook page at this point. And then there's this individual named Becky Patty that comes forward and talks to this Trooper Purdy. So this must be State Trooper. Learned from a lady by the name of Becky Patty that Brad Holder was an Odinist, at least for a short period of time. He was curious about Brad Holder. This short-term curiosity led Purdy into looking into Brad's Facebook page, where he found a very eerie photograph. It shows 2 girls lying what appears to be the ground of the forest. The girls are either dead or posed as if they were dead. The girls have tree limbs arranged over their bodies. The girl in the forefront of the photograph has her left arm and hand positioned very similarly to that of Libby's left arm and hand, outstretched above her head.
Yep.
Ben, it's just a coincidence.
Just a coincidence. We've got a lot of activity.
Yeah, this is great. You guys are getting into this one. So Vinlanders are tied to 1422, 14 words by David Lane, domestic terrorist in Terre Haute, where he created the slogan 14 words. So that's interesting. What else we got here? We got several different things. But yeah, you guys are having a good conversation around this. So we continue on.
How do you feel?
Well, again, I just been so busy, I haven't had really time to dig into this. So this was the first time today that I started to dig into this. But the minute we talked about the Odinist aspect of things, for me, that was a total game changer.
Yeah.
Because that immediately made me think, okay, this is ritualistic human sacrifice.
Yeah.
The fact that this dude probably didn't do it is extremely high, or he didn't do it alone.
Yeah.
But it seems like to me, I don't think he did it.
Yeah.
I think he's actually innocent and he got completely patsied.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put my flag on that one that he's innocent. As far as Alan, I would need to find a little bit more evidence from a non-biased perspective, because this is going to be biased in favor of Richard Allen, right? I mean, we have to acknowledge that.
And then the state is going to be pointing everything at him.
Right. So I need to step away from that aspect.
Wait a minute. It's almost like we need a real judge, like maybe God, to sort this out. Right?
Brother, whenever we start doing it our way versus God's way, we get in a lot of trouble.
Yes, we do.
We do. But I just want to say that I can't say that Richard Allen is innocent. I would lean towards the fact that I think he's probably innocent of this. I would need to find out more from more of a neutral perspective than this. However, on the flip side, this is unbelievably compelling evidence to me that we had a much grander thing going on here than one dude murdering
and
a
if
couple
there's
girls.
no connection between him and them, then he is innocent, right?
I mean, I would tend to think so, right? And it's almost like these guys are being protected.
Yeah.
These guys are being protected from these murders, from this human sacrifice that they did.
Yeah.
They are being protected. So, this just keeps getting worse and worse. So Brad Holder posts a meme. Okay, this is on 2/17/17. So this is literally like a few days after the murders. Okay. So Holder puts up on his, I think maybe Facebook, he posts a meme on one of his social media accounts. And he puts an image of like from Goodfellas. Okay. And it says, "Your real ones don't judge you or ask a bunch of questions. They help you move the body and never speak of it again."
Yeah.
Like really, literally out in front of everybody's face.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there.
Yep.
Okay. So he goes on 2 a.m. So this is 12 hours after the girls have gone missing. Okay. He goes on and posts on Facebook. Quote? He's purportedly at a fitness center proclaiming that his, quote, energy and testosterone is through the roof right now.
Yeah.
He probably got totally juiced after he killed these girls, right? The power rush that we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then his Facebook links, right? Because we talked about how he's connected to this guy, Elvis, that admitted to his two sisters that he was involved in these murders. And everybody says that he looks just like the guy that they had on the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay. So this guy's 126 miles away. Again, he says to the cop, which this just goes to show you the guy's not probably the brightest crown in the box. "Hey, if you guys find my spit in one of the girls, I can explain that. Would that mean I'm in trouble?"
Yeah.
Like, dude, if you say that to me, like, you are now my primary suspect. And the fact that you're not cognitively that great, man, I'm going to lean into you hard because you're going to roll.
Yeah.
It's not going to take much to get you to roll. So he actually, in addition to what we read earlier, he confessed to one of his sisters this. He said the confession included telling one sister that Abby Williams was, quote, a troublemaker. And that is why he, Elvis, used sticks to form horns on Abby's head. Yeah. And admitting to another sister that he was in big trouble and going away for a while because he was present while the girls were murdered and that he spit on the girls. So, did police ever consider that Brad Holder convinced his minions to abduct and participate in sacrificing the girls until he arrived? Like, because it seems like, his alibi that they never looked into, by the way, that he was at work, when all this happened, and they don't have biometric time records or anything. So it's like, how do you know this dude was at work? They never really looked into it. They just dismissed him as and they never dove into it at all. And like the FBI started to, and then they just basically quit looking into it. And it almost seems like early on, the state police kind of kicked the FBI out of this whole deal.
Why?
Yeah, I wonder why. And that's kind of when this all got dropped, right?
Yeah.
So Evidence
Could the
supports
state
this
police
theory.
be involved somehow?
It sure seems like it to me. It's something funky's going on. Evidence supports this theory, including a sketch of a man observed milling around the high bridge near the spot of the famous video. That sketch resembles Elvis Fields. Even Trooper Purdy can't deny that fact. So they asked him in a deposition, this trooper, and he's like, yeah, that looks a lot like him.
Yeah.
So on February 17th, 2017, the FBI interviewed Holder at the Delphi Police Department. The turnaround on interviewing Brad Holder was very quick, as only 3 days had passed since the girls were found murdered. So, according to the report, this is the discussion, right? Holder continued to state that he and Westfall started a tribe, quote unquote, of Asatru followers. Asatru was described as a warrior religion, popular with members of the military, which when you go look at that, it is actually occultish, right? Like dark occultish. Yeah. It's not some kind of warrior religion. Okay. And that Holder, Westfall, and Westfall's girlfriend, Rachel Miller, host Asatru meetings every Sunday at Westfall's house. Holder stated that there are only 5 to 6 regular members that attend.
Yeah.
So 2 women, so this, like everybody starts sleuthing on this, right? 2 women post to Facebook group that Brad Holder was responsible for the homicides. The tipster saw this post and told the police the contents of that post. The tipster went on to summarize what she read. Holder is a pagan, murdered the girls as sacrifices, and left an F on the victims' bodies. Holden's son, Logan, is Abigail's ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Obviously, the F left at the crime scene was not left on the girls' bodies, but rather on the tree painted with Libby's blood.
Yeah.
And again, so you have all these people that don't know the crime scene at all, right?
Yeah.
But are putting this together based on all of these guys, what they're putting out there, the confessions they've made, the whole nine.
Well, like, like any good lie, if it's done in plain sight, nobody cares, right?
No.
I mean, our government's been doing this for years.
Yeah. I mean, it's so they question this Liggett, Tony Liggett, who's the sheriff, right?
Yeah.
That's just making all this up. So they do a deposition with him, the defense team. Yeah. And here's how the Q&A goes. The question. Okay, so Brad Holder then. So was there any other reason that Brad Holder was a suspect or at least a person of interest other than the fact that his son Logan dated Abby? ? His answer. I'm sure there was, but I don't recall without reviewing his information. Question. Nothing stands out to you as you sit there about why Brad Holder might have been a suspect? Answer. No. Question. Other than the connection with his son and Abby, is that right? Answer. Correct. Deliberately cagey with him, even though he knows all this.
Yep.
Been brought to him many times by many different people. And we've just, nope. So on page 1 of this Odin report, I want to kind of go back to this. Mary Jacobs told law enforcement that on February 14th, one day after the murders, 2017, Elvis was rambling, and this is his, I believe, one of his sisters, hyper and borderline incoherent. He was talking about having a, quote, brother, even though Elvis had no male siblings, and how he was part of a gang, right? Like we talked about earlier. Elvis told Mary that he had been on a bridge with 2 girls that were killed. Elvis told her that someone named Abigail was a pain in the ass and a troublemaker. She said Elvis tried to give her a blue jacket, and she told him that she had her own jacket.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy?
It seems like they used him to go and get them off the bridge and bring. They were using him. If he got caught, then they'd cut him loose and, deny ever knowing him. Put the low monkey up there to get the fruit.
Low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And they got the wrong fruit.
Yeah. So then they start interviewing this guy, right? And he starts denying that he knows any of these other guys. He doesn't know He doesn't know Messer. He doesn't know Holder, any of these guys. He doesn't know him. I don't know any of these guys. Yeah. And so that's when we have yet another guy that enters the picture that we kind of had mentioned earlier. which is this guy named Rod Abrams, which they believe is also involved in this. Okay. So Elvis and Abrams have to come up with an eye. Where were you boys? Right. And they're talking to him like however many days after the fact, right? Like a long time. And they're like, oh, yeah, we went to go visit this sick friend in Muncie. And Elvis supposedly leaves his phone at home. So this is the exchange. On August 29, 2018, Ferenczi, who was actually mentioned earlier, who was killed by the corrections officer, according to the person that had made a comment in the comment section here, and Murphy interviewed Rod Abrams. When asked where he and Elvis were on February 13, 2017, Rod Abrams said that he, Elvis, and Ned Smith, so that's another guy that's been kind of mentioned here too, so three of them, were in Muncie on that day visiting a sick friend at the hospital. This is they get kind of snarky in here a few times. I think they got tired of writing and like putting all this down, so it kind of gets funny in a few spots. Autobiographical memory must be in the water in Rushville, as Rod Abrams, when interviewed, was able to remember exactly where he was 562 days earlier. In addition to remembering that they were at the hospital in Muncie, Rod also stated about he and Elvis had their phones with them. Oops. When told that law enforcement would check cell phone records to see if Rod was actually at the hospital in Muncie, Rod explained that, quote, hospitals cut cell reception on phones because they interfere with hospital equipment.
Yeah. You got to get on their Wi-Fi.
So their phones probably would not show that they were at the hospital in Muncie.
It would ping them on the outside going
right. Yeah. So even if we don't have constant where they're inside the hospital, we're going to know that you bone monkeys went up there.
Oh, okay. You're right. We won't check that. And they probably did not.
No. Like everything else.
What the right hand's doing, the left hand
totally lied. And everybody's like, yeah, well, no big deal.
Yeah.
People lie all the time when they've done nothing wrong. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is nutty, man. So this Patrick Westfall, I highlighted this too, was a pastor for that religion that we talked about, Acid True.
Huh.
Okay. Let's see if I can pull that up really quick. What is Acid True?
I keep thinking you're saying acid trip.
That's probably part of it, Ben. Let's see. Acid True. Because remember, they tried to claim this was like this warrior religion, right? That a lot of the guys in the military. Also known as heathenry, is a modern, I gotta love that, right out of the gate, right? Is a modern religion that involves the worship of Norse gods, giants, and ancestors.
Giants? Oh, really? So
yeah, that's what it says right here.
Nephilim.
Ben, I'm reading it right here. Google AI told me. So never lie.
What have I been saying since like we started? All the old gods are returning. Who are the old gods? The Nephilim.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. There you go. Nephilim. The mighty men of old, the men of renown.
Yes, the Nephilim. Yep. And for those of you that probably might not get into this side and that's listening, Genesis chapter 6 covers everything you ever need to know about what's wrong with the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, even
nothing to see here, Ben. There's nothing to see.
Well, it looks like it froze up.
It did. It appears to be.
Even crime goes back to Genesis 6.
I know, right? All of it. Well, crime goes back. It's funny. Yeah, all of it. It all goes back there. That's what I'm saying, and I know we may not get to the rest of it just because, we still got some time left. So I'll try to we're almost near the end of this report because I went through and I cherry picked, the kind of the highlights. And I think I hit a couple things a couple times. So I'm going to have to close the reader here. Oh, wait, no, I don't want to close the reader. Okay, cool. It's back. We're back. We're back in business. So yeah, I mean, then obviously, whether you believe Richard Allen was involved or not, okay, whether he is guilty or not guilty, okay, which to me, it seems like he's probably not guilty, but I can't say for sure. Why in the world would we not look into this group? And the other thing too is like some of these investigators, especially this Liggett guy, because this goes on and it gets even worse because, I mean, he flat out took eyewitness testimony and twisted it and lied about it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think I get into some of that here. We have Rod Abrams. He's connected to the crime scene as well. I'm not going to get into all that. I think we've already painted that picture very clear. Okay. But I do want to get into this because this gets into the sketches we talked about. And I wish I could throw the sketches up on the screen, but I can't. So forgive me. So here's what we got there. On February 17, 2017, Betsy Blair, now that again, we're talking like 4 days after the murders, right? Yeah. Early on. Betsy Blair met with state police sketch artist Taylor D. Bryant and provided a description of the man she observed from 50 feet away on the Monon High Bridge. The same man that Liggett claimed in his affidavit was the killer. Betsy Blair told the sketch artist that the man she observed was a white male, age 20, had curly brown hair, and was of medium build. And that doesn't look anything like the sketch they released because it was a different sketch. And I'm going to get to that here in a minute. Betsy Blair told the sketch artist that the illustration was a 10 out of 10 for accuracy. So when they got done sketching, they turned it around and they said, hey, how's this look? Right? Like they normally do, like we watch in the movies. And she's like, bravo, you did a great job. That's him. 10 out of 10. Nice job. Unified Command did not release the Betsy Blair sketch to the public for over 2 years.
Yep.
Instead, they first released the Sarah Carbra sketch, also called Sketch 1 because it was released first. Sarah Carbra sketch was illustrated by FBI sketch artist Plants from the Detroit on June 19th, 2017. So whoever Plants is, I don't know. And released to the public on July 17th, 2017. Now, she was in a moving car, right? Going like quickly past, I believe, from what I remember of all of this that I read.
Yeah, you could. There's no way.
Whereas the other lady we just talked about, Betsy, Betsy Blair, had like, you know, she was stationary and saw this guy. Okay. Roughly 2 years later in March, so they released the sketch that isn't the good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Roughly 2 years later in March 2019, Betsy Blair met with Tony Liggett. Oh, Mr. Liggett again. Frustrated that her sketch number 2, had not been released to the public. Betsy was frustrated because sketch number 1, which had been released to the public almost 2 years before, did not match the man that she observed on the high bridge. Betsy even commented that sketch number 1 was, quote, wrong.
Yeah.
She provided her description of the sketch artist only 4 days after seeing this man, right? Because then the next question is, certainly it was odd that Sarah Carbro's sketch was released to be chosen over the Betsy Blair sketch for the following reasons. So this is the defense saying, why? This is weird. Why wouldn't you release this? You know, why you would want to release the Betsy Blair one, and here's why. She provided her description of the sketch artist 4 days. So it's fresh in her mind, right? Compared with Sarah Scarborough, who provided her description, or Carbaugh, provided her description to the sketch artist 126 days after Carbaugh observed the man on the road.
Yeah.
Betsy Blair had a good look at the man's face while stationary from only 50 feet away. Sarah Carbaugh was not stationary, but rather traveling down the road, operating her vehicle while simultaneously trying to observe the man on the road.
You can't do that.
During her March 7, 2017 interview, Betsy Blair was talking with 2 members of Unified Command, Kevin Hammond and Tony Liggett. At this interview, Betsy Blair told Liggett face to face that the man that she, Betsy Blair, observed on the high bridge fit the following description. The man was slender and youthful looking. He was more boyish looking. Man in his 20s to early 30s. His hair seemed poofy, just as the sketch portrayed. He had no facial hair that she can remember, which we know that first sketch they released. Yeah. He's got like a goatee, and it's like whitish.
Yeah.
And they went with that. Now, why would they do that? Because that's the one that more closely resembles Richard Allen.
Yeah.
Finally, on April 22nd, 2019, Unified Command released Betsy Blair's sketch number 2 to the general public. In fact, upon its release, Superintendent Doug Carter commented that the man in Blair's sketch number 2 was responsible for the murders. Not sketch number 1, but the second one that they released.
How would he know that?
That's an interesting question.
Like, just how would he know that?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to go back and watch the press release. Maybe he's just like, this is our man here. This is, if you know this man, blah, 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 you know, all that stuff. Also, at the time of the release of the sketch number 2, Doug Carter also stated that sketch number 1 had now become secondary to the investigation.
Yeah, I remember this. It was big news. And
so here you guys went for like a couple years now?
Yeah.
how many years? And had everybody looking for the wrong person?
Yeah.
Right? Matter of fact, there was a guy that got popped somewhere around the time frame. I was still at my former employer. And man, when they put his picture up on the screen, I was like, that dude looks just like the sketch one from Delphi. And everybody's like, nah, I can't be there. He got this other guy. And I'm like, something's wrong here. I knew then. I didn't dig into it because I just wasn't there yet. But yeah. So here's what this guy, Liggett, some of what he does, because I want to get into this because this dude's a scumbag. And if you hear this, you're a scumbag. Mr. Sheriff. We should dig into this guy.
Yeah.
I should sick my wife on him. She'd find out all about him. Don't make me sick my wife on you, Liggett. All right. Liggett flat out lied when he told Judge Diener that in 2017, Sarah Carbaugh described a man as wearing muddy and bloody clothing.
Yeah.
And he was wearing a blue jacket.
Yeah.
Totally not what she said at all.
Nope.
That's a lie. So.
Well, think about this.
She said he was wearing like a tan jacket and there was no blood.
Think about this. All these people that are lying and doing all these things, their judgment is coming.
Oh, yes.
God's judgment is a lot worse than man's judgment.
Yeah. So this is another note that I kind of put in here about when they would go see Alan. All right. And I kind of alluded to this earlier, but I want to read this. So this is when his two attorneys, right, that are filing this motion, that are filing all this documentation, went to go see him on May 4th, 2023. So it's these two attorneys, Baldwin and Rozzi, met with Richard Allen to discuss matters involving the case. At this time, Richard Allen was in a mental and physical state of deterioration and was nearly non-communicative. During the visit, Richard Allen repeatedly asked whether or not his wife was okay and if his family was okay. He claimed on multiple occasions that, quote, they were going to kill him. When asked who he was referring to as they, Richard Allen responded by saying the guys with the Odin patches, which are the two sergeants we talked about earlier. Up to this point in the legal process, Richard Allen's defense team had never mentioned Odinites or Odinism to Richard Allen, either directly or indirectly.
Yeah.
The first time I'm aware of any mention of Odinite involvement to Richard Allen was during a visit on August 25th, 2023. So like 4 months later.
Yeah.
Almost 5. When Kathy Allen attended and a discussion occurred between attorney and client regarding ties to the crime scene. And again, they got these patches.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I'm like, okay, sure they do. Right. You guys saw that, but you can't provide any proof. Well, yeah, they took our cell phones. Yeah. So they went on their Facebook pages, and I alluded to this earlier. On his Facebook page, Sergeant Robinson does not hide his devotion to Odinism. On June 25th, 2023, Robinson posted a photo of what the defense would call an altar featuring horns, antlers, and Thor's hammer, and a dish sitting atop some type of animal fur with various runes decorating the outer edges of the dish. All these items were placed on what appears to be a circular wooden platter. Mm-hmm. It appears that Sergeant Jones, quote, liked Sergeant Robinson's Odin altar post. Sergeant Robinson's altar to Odin is similar to the Odin altar to Odin posted by Brad Holder.
Yeah.
And again, they go on to say here, additionally, in their combined 50 plus years of practicing criminal defense, attorneys Baldwin and Rozzi have never had their purported confidential attorney visits videotaped with a handheld camcorder.
Yep.
Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robertson, beginning April 3rd, 2023, began videotaping Richard Allen's interactions with his attorneys. Particularly outrageous was the fact that Richard Allen was required to face the camcorder from about 10 feet away through glass. This means that Richard's mouth was being videotaped. This means that Richard was not able to talk freely with his attorneys and say things like, they are stating that if I don't tell my wife I am guilty, then they are going to harm my wife. If Richard were to say anything like that, it would be on video. Remember, Richard Allen continuously asked his defense team if his wife was okay and if his family was okay. Yeah. Sergeant Jones's Facebook post revealed ties to Odinism. Find attached image taken from Sergeant Jones's Facebook page, and they provide the exhibit number. As you can see, the interlocking triangles that appear on Sergeant Jones's patch also appear in this photo. You'll also notice a rune in the lower left-hand corner of the photo. It's hard to see because it's in black. Also, remember that Sergeant Jones liked Sergeant Robinson's altar toad.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's pretty much the highlights of this report.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I
this crazy stuff, bro.
I mean,
Crazy.
We've been discussing this for since 17 in our house.
Yeah.
And so it's been I always go with my gut.
Yeah.
My gut's never steered me wrong.
Yeah.
And I knew then I said, well, some sort of ritual sacrifice or something has to be.
Yeah.
And then as I just don't think that it's coincidence. I never thought that. I never thought, oh, they met this guy online, blah, 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 anything like that. And the more I think about it, and I go back to the old gods returning thing.
Yep.
And it's how prevalent it is becoming.
Yeah.
And
out in the open.
And out in the open.
Like not hidden.
Yes.
It's out there.
These
guys are bragging about it.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I did skip over that I just want to mention really quick. I'm not going to pull it back up.
Yeah.
But what they did find, and they started digging into these guys' Facebook, and other people had mentioned, was that these guys were all meeting up prior to the murders. Okay. And they have video of this prior to the murders and practicing these rituals.
Yeah.
Exactly the same way that it seemingly went down with these two girls.
Yeah.
So they met together, they practiced it, and then they carried it out.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
It's scary. It's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I can say is I hope that if something like that were to happen, it's definitely got to be, it always has to be a virgin.
Yeah.
And I don't know why young girls is the thing.
Yeah.
But gods require blood to exist. And what really scared me is the fact that blood was spilled to bring about the existence of that God.
Yeah.
So that God is up there.
Yeah.
That God is there.
Mm-hmm.
He has dominion of that land right now.
Yeah.
When you really think about it. When you go back to...
Yeah, that's the vibe you got.
Yes, that was the vibe I got.
Yeah, because you got to think, it's kind of like cockroaches.
Yeah.
There ain't just 4.
Yeah.
There's a lot more. There's a lot more of these guys floating around up there. There's a lot more of these guys floating around in general.
Yeah.
Than we like to admit.
Yeah.
And, it just goes to show you that we say it all the time on this show, that the veil is you just mentioned it, right? The veil is getting thinner by the day, and sometimes it's not even existent anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, crap, we're selling T-shirts at Target that encourage you to embrace Satan because he's your friend.
Yeah. I know. That's scary.
I mean, that's insane. It's insane. People are engaging in ritualistic sacrifice every time we have an abortion in this country.
Yep.
And they just pretend like, nope, that's not it. Totally different. Don't look, nothing to see here. And I'm like, no, that's what you're doing.
Because that goes to
what you're doing.
Dagon and Moloch.
Yeah. Baal, Molech, all these guys, man. That's like one of the key components.
And America doesn't think that's a problem.
Because we're based on selfishness.
Yes.
Everything that we do and all the things that we engage in, are selfish. That's the root of all sin, is selfishness.
Yes.
And this does, you hit it earlier, man. You said Genesis 6. This is just our show. This goes back to Genesis 6.
Yeah.
This is a real world, terrifyingly scary. Someone mentioned up here, it's beyond, was it Carton? I can't even read all that. I'm sorry. It is beyond of imagination how poor these poor girls had to suffer, is basically what this person was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we didn't even talk about, like, that kind of came out in the trial, as you said, that the one had her sister's hair in her hand.
Yeah. So,
like, her sister maybe was present to watch this.
Yeah.
I mean, this was, the dad, we didn't even get into the dad. I mean, that's just scary stuff.
Yeah.
There's scary stuff.
And that town just kind of creeped me out when we were there.
we're not going to get into the parents. We'll leave that, I guess. But, one of the things that when you talk about Molech and you talk about Baal and you talk about all these gods, the parents
did it willingly.
They did it willingly
because they're getting something in return.
Yeah.
Like that I'm keep referencing this book because it's like goes hand in hand. The main is It's All True is based on a true event that I think happened in the 70s or 80s. When this lady was born, this witch asked the mother to sell a vial of blood.
Yeah, I remember you tell me that.
And she gained all kinds of powers. All kinds of powers. And she was like, I couldn't understand it, but why not?
Dude, it's all in the blood.
Yes.
There's power in the blood.
There is.
Our life is in the blood.
Yes.
We talked about it today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because inside of your blood, that's where your DNA is, right? The life force and all of that. And people don't understand because we don't really, the Bible doesn't get into it, but, we use the extra biblical text all the time. And you can see here that the minute we get off the boat, this is the covenant that is made.
Yeah.
Because this is what was done before the flood.
Yep.
Is all the shedding of blood and the consuming of blood and the destruction of everything.
Yeah.
Animal, mankind, the whole nine, corruption of everything, genetically, physically, the whole nine. And so God wipes it all clean, starts over, and the covenant is, and I got it pulled up right here. On the third new month, he went out of the ark, so talking about Noah, and built an altar on that mountain. And I'm reading from the book of Jubilees. This is chapter 6. And he made an atonement for the earth and took a kid and made an atonement by its blood for all the guilt of the earth, for everything that had been done on it had been destroyed, except those that were in the ark with Noah. And it goes on here, and it basically talks about how there won't be any more floods to destroy the earth, and you guys are not going to be consuming blood. But you shall not eat anything live or with blood in it, for the life of all flesh is in the blood.
Yeah.
Or your blood of your lives will be required. At the hand of every man, at the hand of every beast, will I require the blood of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of Elohim he was made.
Yeah.
As we talked about today in church.
Yeah.
Increase and multiply on the earth. Noah and his sons swore that they would not eat any blood that was on any flesh, or that was in any flesh, rather. And he made a covenant before Yah Elohim forever throughout all the generations of the earth in this month. And then we plant a garden.
Yep.
Or an olive grove or vineyard of grapes. I'm sorry, a vineyard. Grapes.
I could get into some stuff with the grapes.
Some grapes.
But that's for another show.
Yeah, there you go. So there you go. The Delphi murders, yo. The Delphi sacrifices. Maybe I'll change the name of this show before we actually air it on re-release out there to the masses. And maybe I'll just call it the Delphi sacrifices because that's a little bit more fitting.
It was.
But, again, we're not a true crime show. That's not what we do. We talk spiritual warfare. We talk Bible mostly. We talk some conspiracy theories, which this falls into, some of that
this
stuff.
falls into everything.
This one covers it all. But but it's not a normal kind of thing we dive into so much. But you know what? All of it, it's all spiritual warfare, man. It's the same thing we've talked about on the show from the very beginning. And I guarantee you, if we're lucky enough and God sees fortunate enough to see us having this conversation 5 years from now, we're going to be saying the same thing over and over and over again. This stuff is happening. Yep. It's happening. It's real. Okay. It is real. And it's happening right around us under our noses.
Yeah. We don't.
So pay attention.
I think, I don't know if you envision when you say spiritual warfare, angels fighting all around us.
I think so.
But it's also taking on physical form.
Absolutely.
As well. So
absolutely. We are now, and that's the thing that we're talking about with the veiling of everything, right? The spiritual battle is playing out in the physical world at a level that we have not seen in a long time in human history.
I wonder what battle, because usually if there is a spiritual battle in heaven, there is some sort of battle here on earth. And And I was just thinking about this when you said that, when Daniel was praying for 21 days and his prayer was not answered. And because Michael was late.
We just read that, Adrian and I. We literally just read that yesterday.
And I wonder what battle was happening on Earth.
With the Prince of Persia.
Yes. I wonder what that was. Wonder if it was an actual timeline.
I want to say that's Daniel 9.
Yeah. Timelines, what year that would be, to see what was happening at that time.
Yeah, you definitely get the sense that Prince of Persia is not the,
Yeah.
Who's the Prince of Persia?
Yeah, I know.
It tends to make me think that I said the same. That's funny. I said the same thing you just said.
Yeah.
Because I think I said to her, one, you can pick up that this is not a human that we're talking about when we say the Prince of Persia. Okay.
Yeah.
What that was right there was, I believe, was probably one of these Elohim. And I said the same thing. I said it would be fascinating to go see what was going on there. We know the Persians and the Greeks weren't exactly the best people in the world, so can kind of draw some natural conclusions.
And we put so much emphasis. Oh, it's like this guy here, but no, it was the other 70 Elohim.
These guys are actually just puppets.
Yes.
Right. They're doing this ritualistic sacrifice and they're doing all these things, but let's not make a mistake about it here. They are puppets to a grander, satanic plan.
Yeah.
I mean, we read it in that even the defense attorney, who I don't know what their religious status is, but they said in there, demonic, satanic were the words that were used.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Anything.
That's the bigger picture.
Yeah. Anything that's evil, satanic.
Yes. Anything that's not of God is of the devil.
And they work a lot harder than Christians do.
Well, we don't work hard at all.
I know we don't. We go to church for 2 hours, and if it goes over 2 hours, we get upset.
Yeah, tapping our watches.
Yeah.
I would love to have somebody tap me if I was ever in a pulpit. You don't think I'll call you out right there? No, I'll be like, you know what? Why don't you go ahead and go to lunch if that's more important to you?
Yeah.
Don't bother coming back either. We should say that to more people.
I know. We should.
If your lunch date is more important to you, then go do that. And why are you bothering to come here? You think you're getting credit?
Yeah. You
think you should you just show up to school and get credit? You don't have to take the test and live the life and do the thing?
I know.
I don't think so, punk. Hit the bricks.
Pound sand.
Oh man, this got me fired up. I was reading this and I'm just like, the corruption and the evil that I know. It's evil. It was page after page after page of evil, man.
I know.
Just evil leaping off the page at you of the investigation. And I felt sorry for a lot of the investigators too, because they're doing their job. Yeah. And they're turning this stuff in and there's whatever.
I know. File 13.
And do you think it's, do you think that it was deliberately done that way, or do you think it's just they couldn't wrap their heads around it? The one guy said, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I read that, right? I couldn't wrap my head around it. So you think they just dismissed it because of that? Like the judge, you were saying upstairs, the judge couldn't wrap her head around it.
Yeah.
She just thinks this is all bogus, which is crazy to me because it's listen, put on your common sense hat here. You're reading evidence. Come on.
I heard someone say that they've talked to somebody that's an attorney, and they said that they don't believe any of that.
That they just made it all up?
Yeah.
So this is 130 pages of incredibly well made up stuff.
They said there's no way that could happen. But this person probably doesn't believe anything. But this person probably is also a Mason too.
There you go. That's sad because I got a lot of friends that I made when I was a Mason, a lot of good dudes in there, and they do a lot of good philanthropic work, but these dudes don't realize what they're being bathed in, man. You just don't know. I'm telling you now. I was looking at, I dug into something yesterday I got on to, which was, there's another appendant body inside of Masonry called Tall Cedars. Are you familiar with this?
No.
Oh, what's that instantly make you think of?
Giants.
You bet your bippy. As my mama used to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. When you go dig into this, it is, I'll have to show you some stuff, but it's just wacky. They wear pyramids on their heads. That's their fez. Yes.
Wow.
That's their fez, is a pyramid.
Whoa.
Right. Don't even realize it. They don't realize. It goes right over their head. Yeah. They're trying to tie it into Solomon. They got Solomon's throne and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. With the lions and stuff perched on the steps,
but his temple wasn't a pyramid.
No, his temple was not a pyramid.
that we know of.
That we know of. But, it goes back into the other side of that too, which is, you go the Shriner route, you go the shrine side of the coin, right?
Yeah.
And you go to the Scottish Rite. Scottish Rite, I should clarify. That is all, that's what you get into on that side. You get into all the Egyptian mythology and stuff, which we know is bad.
Yeah.
So, wow. Lots of ziggurats. But anyway, that's our cheery show on the Delphi murders and how it relates to
spiritual warfare.
Spiritual warfare, baby. It's always about spiritual warfare on this show. It comes back to the same
Genesis
thing every time.
6.
So,
have we ever done a show that didn't involve Genesis 6?
No, never. Not one. Not a one.
We should just call the show Genesis 6.
Well, according to some out there, Ben, we should rename the show because we're infringing on other people's rights or trying to steal their thunder or whatever.
Oh.
What are you going to do? So what are you going to do?
How often have you used this phrase, tinfoil? Have used it all long time.
I think it's been around a while.
Yes. I wear mine daily.
Yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
You know why? If you don't wear your hat daily, this stuff will sneak up on you.
Yes.
It'll happen right under your nose and you'll never know it. You'll become a judge, right? At one point, we're probably a well-intended person.
Yeah.
But you have become so blinded by the enemy that you can't see the truth when it's staring you in the face.
Because it gave you power.
Yes. Well, or like the judge that's just like completely dismissive of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because she just doesn't want to believe it. It's like, listen, who gives a crap what you want to believe?
Yeah.
Who cares what you want to believe? Listen to that's your whole job is to listen to the evidence that's presented in front of you. Let me tell you something. I've said this before on the show. I have spent a large portion of my career dealing with liars. I'm very familiar with liars, and there I've dealt with some really good liars. If these dudes are making this up, they are the grand poobah champions of all time of liars. Okay. But they can't be making it up because that's when you put your common sense hat on and you're like, they are providing you evidence.
Yep.
Here's the exhibit to go with what we're saying. And by the end, we were up to like exhibit 130.
Yeah.
Like, here's the guy's Facebook post. Here's the picture. Here's the patches.
Yeah.
Like, that's not make-believe.
Yeah.
Here, these guys lied.
Yeah.
You can see in the written record of law enforcement, these guys lied.
He's convicted now, so it's...
Yeah, and that's just the thing, you look at that and it's like, I didn't get a chance to look at this and maybe I'll go pull it up right now, but is he, I think I asked upstairs.
I don't know if he's getting the
if he's able to, man, you almost like, golly, if we can't get this guy free. It's sad. So anyway, the whole thing is bad. I'll stop now while we're here, but thanks to all you guys for tuning in here and listening to The Foil. If this is your first time, check us out, thetfhc.com. You can check us out there, and you can watch these shows live. If you go to thetfhc.com and click on Watch Live, you can actually see what shows we have coming up. And we have quite a few that are coming up.
We have some big hitters coming up soon.
Pretty awesome. This thing doesn't want to work either. I'm batting 1,000 here today. That's okay.
Yeah, we've got some really good shows coming up.
We do. They're coming up this week, actually. So make sure you head over to our website, thetfhc.com, and you can go /live stream, or you can click the Watch Live button. You can see all of our shows. You can hit the little bell, and it'll remind you when the shows are coming on.
Yep.
But yeah, we've got, my goodness, let's see here. Who all do we have coming up this week? We have, I think we got, 2 or 3 this week?
Holy cow.
I think it's 2, maybe 2 back to back during the week. Maybe. I can't pull it up right now, but I think we have our friend Timber Cleghorn from Alone. If you guys have watched the TV show Alone, we have Timber Cleghorn. I'll pull it up this way. Coming on the show, we are going to talk to him about his experience. He was the runner-up on season 12, I believe, season 11, 12, this last season of Alone on the History Channel. So we are going to be talking to him on, Thursday, November 21st is when we're going to be talking to him. And then Wednesday, the day before, we're going to be talking to Timber at 6 o'clock. And then 6 o'clock the day before on Wednesday, November 20th. So this coming Wednesday, we are going to be talking to Karen Wilkinson, who actually has a book that is out right now called Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. You're not going to want to miss that one. That's going to get into all kinds of stuff that ties into what? Spiritual warfare, man.
Genesis 6.
They're making genetically altered oogies.
Yeah.
They're stealing the babies to do it.
And then Paul Dixon on Sunday.
And we have Paul Dixon, friend Paul Dixon, this coming Sunday, our new friend, November 24th at 3 p.m. We're going to talk about antediluvian or pre-flood sites in America. So there is your lineup. So check us out and stay tuned. So with that, we will bid you adieu. Until next time, on the foil. Take care.
Bye.